edition of the Premier League predictions on Tackling Sport. It's Daniel Hussey here, joined once again by my brother Sean.
How's it going?
I'm delighted to be joined by firstly reigning champion Matthew Murphy and then challenger Kevin Quinn. So lads, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us. Good to be back.
Good to be here, lads.
Brilliant. Yeah, cheers for doing it. Matt, listen, quick reflection on last week. I think it's probably the closest one we've had, and it was a high scoring enough game. It went down to the wire and Wolves equaliser, 1-1, gave you 3 points and pushed you in. I think it was 2 ahead in the end. You beat Emmett.
Yeah, the Wolves game, they came up. Pedro Neto came up clutch there with the goal. But yeah, I think Emmett let himself down in a couple of them, as we knew Newcastle weren't going to get 2 goals against Chelsea. There's a few points like that. But look, I'm sure Emmett will look back and he'll know his mistakes. But I'll go again here this week.
Yeah, Evan definitely looking back on last week with a few regrets now, to be honest with you. He's a fear of missing out. I think this week he doesn't know. You don't know what you've got till it's gone, Matt. So hopefully you can keep doing. But Kev's a great challenger here. And for those who haven't listened before, it's 3 points for a win, 1 point for just getting the right results. So sorry, 3 points for the correct score, that is. But we're just going to get the. I'm just going to share my screen here, and we're going to get the. It's actually going to. If I share, it's going to go into my fantasy team here, guys. So if you just give me a second. But I think the first game is a Friday night game. And it is Crystal Palace. I think we've actually got games on all 4 days here: Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So if I just go here, it's Crystal Palace versus Newcastle. I hope you guys can see that okay on YouTube. We'll go to you first, Matt. How do you see this game going? Palace, you know, I got a lot of hate from a few lads, Evan included, for saying they'd get relegated at the start of the season. I bit my lip when they beat United 2-1. I didn't say anything. This is for Emmett, if you're listening, that, you know, Palace are starting to, they just don't seem to have enough goals, but it always does seem that when they get a win, that it manages to get them out of trouble.
Yeah, sure. Well, I wouldn't agree that they be getting relegated this season, but like Palace are a decent side. They've been solid for a few years. Like Hodgson has been doing a good job. Like they don't really spend too big, and like they always get results, as you said, when needed. No Zaha though, I think is a huge loss. I know he is coronavirus. I'm assuming he won't be back now for Friday, although.
It said fantasy says 25% chance of playing, because I haven't been draft, so I doubt it.
I wouldn't back it. Yeah, so obviously they're playing Newcastle then, who, you know, they've been getting a lot of stick on this podcast. They're not a bad side either. They obviously lost to Chelsea, but Callum Wilson's back fit. I think that's huge for them. He's a goal scorer, like, so. I've gone 1-0 to Newcastle here because I think Callum Wilson has what it takes to get them over the line.
Wow, I think that'll be a popular result with Sean. Kev, how do you see this game going?
To be honest, I don't see it being a very high-scoring game at all. I don't know if Callum Wilson's back for Newcastle, and obviously Zaha has gone for Palace. So I can't imagine there's much of an attacking threat there. Like Newcastle won on target against Chelsea last week, and I thought Chelsea were quite poor, to be honest, despite the win. So to be honest, I cannot see. To be honest, I'm not going to tune into it. To be like, can't imagine it's going to be the best game in the world. So yeah, I'm expecting a low-scoring draw out of this game.
Okay, and what score?
I'd imagine it's going to be something like a 1-1 draw. Just because there's 2 leaky defenses there as well. And there's not going to be goals.
So Kev won't be tuning in, Sean. A quick one on Newcastle for you. What the question is? Yeah, on Chelsea's performance, I did think watching it that I didn't think it's. I understand where you're coming from. Steve Bruce is doing a good job, but surely you can make more of an effort in a game like that. You say on Gaelic football a lot, Sean, that, you know, team needs to attack and go for it. Newcastle didn't go for it. Are you backing that performance from Steve Bruce, or was it just not good enough?
No, like I didn't expect them. It was a typical sort of performance. I've taken Callum Wilson out of the fantasy team. I've kind of recognized that they're going to go into a bit of a rush. Couple of tricky games coming up, couple of big games. Then, yeah, like I suppose it's different in a Premier League to Gaelic games where it's kind of more knockout. Like the Premier League, I mean, if Steve Bruce gets battered 6-0, it could have lasting implications. For the game this week against Palace, for example, I think they'll probably nick a draw out of it because Palace were woeful against Burnley. And they've too many players like Batshuayi and Jordan Ayew who just kind of need everything to go their way to score. Now, whether he starts Benteke, who came off the bench, and look, he probably should have scored it if he got a good first touch in the last minute at Turf Moor. But I think he gives you more than Batshuayi and Jordan Ayew. But I wouldn't expect too much from this game. Like Kev said, I could even see a 0-0 draw. But it'd be interesting to see what Crystal Palace do, because Gary Gary Cahill sitting on the bench, and they started Scott Dan. So like, I think they have enough players to keep them out of a relegation battle. I did say Roy Hodgson could be one of the first managers out of his post, but I think that they'll just have enough, and the teams around them are pretty poor.
So yeah, I don't think we'll spend too long. Sorry for not building up Friday night game, lads. But we'll move on to Brighton, Liverpool. We'll stick with you for this one, Matt, I guess, as being a Liverpool fan. Really good performance against Leicester. Did that carry over to the Champions League game? I know there's a lot of changes, but it seemed that I say it was a combination of a lot of things for that result. Like it wasn't the greatest performance in the world, although Atalanta, people forget, I know you guys hammered them, but they are a very good team.
Yeah, no, as you said, they were unbelievable there on Sunday against Leicester. They made Leicester look really poor, and there's been obviously a lot of talk about the injuries and how kind of we talked about ourselves last week about how Vardy should be kind of licking his lips at that defense, but they handled them so well. They had everyone like in the defense. Matip and Fabinho actually looked like a good partnership, and then obviously up front the lads did well. Jota looks an unreal signing, and he's keeping up the good form. As for last night, yeah, as you mentioned, it looks like there was a good few changes. I think they probably just came in with the wrong kind of mindset. Like they've won all their games without conceding so far. They knew they didn't have to win. I'd say that was probably a factor. And then obviously the changes coming in. You have a back four with Tsimikas, Reece Williams, and Nico Williams. And then you have Origi up top, which I don't think the team has performed well when Origi started in the last, I don't know, over a year, I'd say. So I wasn't too surprised, to be honest. But then looking ahead even to Saturday, I think they will be back at it again for the league. I wouldn't be too concerned by the result last night. Brighton, they finally got a good result last week against Villa. As we were saying, that they have probably been playing better than some of their performances, but I think up against Liverpool, Liverpool are still a good deal above them. So I've gone for a 3-0 easy Liverpool win, to be honest.
Oh wow, I thought you were going towards a close-ish game, maybe a 2-goal margin, 3-0 though. That Brighton result actually was one of Emmett's better predictions last week. Bit of a surprise he went for that to start with, but we'll move on.
Yeah.
Kev, how do you see this one going? I know you're a Manchester United fan, so must be hard to say, but Liverpool have been knocking out of the park the last 2 years.
Yeah, I'd be of the same opinion that like last week I was writing off Liverpool big time against Leicester just because it's the leaky defence, things like that. But no, there's a reason they're champions. I have them down for a 3-0 win over Brighton as well. I just think they've too much quality, and the addition of Fabinho coming back last week was massive for them. They didn't have centre backs last week, and then they have Matip and Fabinho going in at centre back, which is a partnership that could do it, not just in the Premier League, but Champions League as well. So, yeah, Brighton, a good result last week. Danny Welbeck scoring is a massive boost for them, but I can't see them getting at Liverpool, and Liverpool's quality up top will definitely just be too much for them, I think.
I know how hard that was for you to say that, Kev, so I appreciate
I know,
that.
Yeah. I don't know if I believe myself.
We had Doug on a few weeks ago and he went the other way and just denied that Liverpool are a very good team. But Sean, do you agree with the lads? I see it a slightly bit closer. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, slightly bit closer. I think playing Champions League football and having the defeat and kind of like all the panic around losing and all that kind of settles in. Look, you would still fancy Liverpool. Just going back to what the lad said about Leicester, like Liverpool were good, but I thought Leicester were horrendous. And I think it's something that's played Brendan Rodgers' his career. Like he didn't take the moment in that game when Liverpool have all those injuries and a real chance to get a result at Anfield. Like how rare is that? 60 odd games, but they were just so poor, and they never looked like once at attacking the game and being brave enough against Liverpool. And it just plays into Liverpool's strengths. I mean, they can do all facets of the game, and like people say they're a pressing side, but like they can really just hurt you when they can get on the counter attack so easily. And Leicester kind of, if you like, sat back, and then Liverpool took all the ball, and then they've enough quality and from Robertson and Milner's balls over the top and down the sides. And I was really disappointed with Leicester, and it probably just shows you, when the sign of a champion is they can play any sort of team and win and play any style of football. And I think that's what Jurgen Klopp's side has developed over the last 2 or 3 seasons. I probably give them the 3 points here, but it'd be interesting to see what Danny Welbeck can do, because he's a similar enough striker to Jamie Vardy, and if they can get the ball down the sides and down the channels to Welbeck, he could cause them problems. Whether Brighton score, I think that's probably where they lack themselves anyway. Never mind Liverpool's leaky defence, but 3 points to Liverpool, I reckon.
We'll move on to Manchester City Burnley. An interesting stat I found was that Fulham's expected goals this season is higher than Manchester City's. Now, you can qualify that with an extra game, but like Pep Guardiola's sides aren't scoring enough. Is there a concern there at all? It seems to be completely on Manchester City like.
Yeah, no, you're right. City are really struggling. I think they've really struggled with the loss of the pace of Sané. Sterling obviously was injured then. I know they brought in Ferran Torres, and obviously Aguero's been injured too, in fairness, but they really look like they're lacking creatively. I know they won 1-0 last night. Once again, just the one goal for them. And I think the getting Aguero back is going to be huge. Like, if he can stay fit now. I know he kind of almost made a comeback and then got injured again, so I think they're going to have to be patient with him. So I don't know if we'll be playing this Saturday. I've actually taken that into account in the prediction in terms of the lack of goals. So I've actually said 1-0 Man City. I know Burnley have been poor, but Ben Mee is back, and in fairness, they did look a lot more solid defensively against Palace last week. So I've just only gone 1-0 to Man City, so I don't think they're going to get more goals again. Although at the same time, who knows, could be 5-0 then if that all comes at once.
Yeah, if you made that prediction 1-0, I think I'd probably laugh at you. But I think given current circumstances, it's not the worst show. Kev, are you worried at all with City and how they're going, and how do you see this game going?
No, I wouldn't be worried about City at all, to be honest. It was a Jose masterclass last week, as a lot of people have said. So, no, I wouldn't be worried at all. I've actually gone the opposite way, and I predicted a 4-1 win for City.
Wow.
They just have too much quality up top. Sterling yesterday was class. I think Phil Foden's different level. I think he'll be one of the best players in the world in a couple of years' time. I know they're missing a few. Obviously, Sané is a big loss this year, especially going forward for them. But I still think they have too much quality for Burnley. Burnley obviously are struggling for goals as well. I think the most they scored in the game is 2, and they lost that game as well. So, yeah, they have a bit of a leaky defence, as I said, for a few other games. And that's the same with City. But I still see City putting up a big score now, especially playing at home this week, and they'll be expecting a result after last week.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not really the type of game Burnley do well in. Sean, quick word on this game and maybe Pep Guardiola?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't be too quick to start writing City off. I mean, a couple of times this season, Raheem Sterling has been, true on goal with a chance to win a big away game, and he's missed it. And a couple of years ago, he took them chances, and I think that's all that's missing. You think of the Leeds game, obviously De Bruyne's penalty then against Liverpool, so I don't think they're far off clicking. But I don't think they'll batter Burnley. I think Burnley are in a decent place at the moment defensively, having me and Tarkowski back. But like Kev said, I was very impressed with them against. Yesterday.
Champions League.
I thought they were really good. They were very attacking orientated, and like Kev said, Phil Foden was brilliant yesterday. Jesus, look, he kind of just needs a couple of goals to go his way, and then you'd really fancy him to kick on. But I think with Aguero coming back, De Bruyne, Sterling, I think they have enough quality there. Like Matt says, still waiting for Torres to light it up in the Premier League. He played really well for Spain over the international break, but I wouldn't be worried yet for Pep.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was Olympiacos away. It was a 1-0 win away from home. Yeah, that was Everton versus Leeds. Then, Kev, we'll go to you for this one. How do you see these two pretty high-profile teams for this season? How do you think they've been getting on, and how do you see this game going?
Yeah, in my opinion, two most exciting teams to watch this season.
Yeah, I agree.
I enjoy watching the two of them. I love Everton. I think they're so old school. They put the ball in the box and have a big centre forward there, which is it's always good to watch, in my opinion, to be honest. Same with Leeds, the exact same. Bamford up top, playing class. Wouldn't be surprised to see him get an England call up if he continues the way he's going.
Or Ireland call up.
Not in my opinion, no. But
same.
Yeah, but both teams leave a lot to be desired at the back. Like your man Koch, the lead centre back, I think he's not at it at all, to be honest. I know he's young, and that's the same with Everton as well. Michael Keane, like the 3 goals that Everton conceded against United, just all unavoidable in my opinion, to be honest. I'm predicting a 2-2 draw. I think there's goals in it between them. I'm seeing a very high intense game, but yeah, I can't see either team pulling away from it, and especially Everton conceding 2 against Fulham last week. Schoolboy teams wouldn't concede 2 against Fulham, so I'd imagine that's how it's going to end up.
Yeah, Matt, how do you see this game going? Just looking at the table here for those on YouTube or not on YouTube. So Everton have conceded 16 goals and Leeds 17 goals, and I think the most is 18. So like Kev said, he's spot on there in terms of leaky defences, and kind of shows you how boring Arsenal are. We'll get into that in a second. How do you see this game going?
I agree with Kev there. Like, they're both leaky defences, and they're both scoring goals. Well, Everton are definitely scoring goals, like Luca Digne, and then you have James and floating around, and then you have obviously Calvert-Lewin up front. Richarlison's back. I think there's definitely goals there for Everton. I mentioned Robin Koch, and Kev mentioned him again. I know then him and Cooper obviously kept a clean sheet then as soon as I called them out there last week. But I think there's going to be goals for Everton, definitely. At the same time, as we said, Everton have conceded a good few goals. And Leeds actually got really unlucky last week, I thought, against Arsenal. They had a few chances, hit the woodwork, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. So I think with Bamford, Rodrigo is looking like there's goals kind of nearly there from. So I've actually gone for the same. I've gone 2-2 again. So same as Kev.
Interesting, yeah. I'd probably be leaning towards that, lads, to be honest with you as well. Sean, 2 teams probably talked a lot about on the podcast. How do you see that? I think they're both fair. I think that kind of, it's hard to not agree with that narrative, the leaky defence, especially just looking at the table here and the amount of goals conceded.
Yeah, look, and it's not just a recent issue for both of these sides. I think the thing about Leeds is these are the kind of games I thought they'd do well in the league. This is why I thought they'd have enough to stay up. Obviously, they've done really well in other games and beaten teams in and around them, which is obviously crucial. But I fancy Leeds here. I thought they did play well against Arsenal. Like the lad said, the defense isn't great, but I think if they Calvin Phillips is back. Missed a few games for England. He seems to really suit that team, even in the Premier League, with kind of shielding that back four. And it'd be interesting to see because, like the lad said, Robin Koch is still young. But we all know, look, Ben White was their number 1 target. He was so good for them last year with Liam Cooper. And it would be interesting to see how they deal with Calvert-Lewin. I think Liam Cooper would prefer to deal with a Calvert-Lewin than an Aubameyang. I know Calvert-Lewin can go in behind. He's quick enough, but I think a lot of his stuff is, aerial battles and aerial duels. And I think Liam Cooper will like that and it'll kind of suit him a bit more. So I kind of fancy Leeds here.
Interesting. So we'll move on to another one of these exciting games. West Bromwich Albion at home to Sheffield United. Come to you, Kev, and stick with you. Impressed with either of these teams at all? It's hard to be, I guess, considering I have the top 16 here on the table, and there's still neither of them are in it because they are 19th and 20th in the table, and 4 goals scored by Sheffield United and 6 by West Brom.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be too impressed by these 2 teams. I know Sean's probably licking his lips now upon the table clash on the weekend, but yeah, no, like in fairness, last week West Brom, I thought they were better than United at Old Trafford. Probably unlucky to lose 1-0. Sheffield, on the other hand, they can't score. Like, I like David McGoldrick as much as the next man, but he's not going to get you 15 goals a season or anything like that. Ollie McBurney as well. He doesn't do anything for me, to be honest. They're very poor, I thought, against it was West Ham last week, I think, as well, where they lost 1-0. Like, Haller scored. That just tells you everything you need to know about the team. So yeah, as for West Brom, I actually think they're coming together. Now, kind of for last 2 draws in the last 2 games, and I know I'm saying they're a draw, but for a team like West Brom, they haven't got like the players to really compete in the Premier League. I don't think they'll stay up, but I do think that they'll beat Sheffield on the weekend, probably 1-0.
1-0. So move on to you, Matt. Even just looking at the bottom 4 there, they're getting adrift already at Brighton. Like, even say for example, like West Brom are 8 points off 15th place and Sheffield United 10 points off that as well. So you'd be worried for both teams.
Yeah, no, they're 2 teams who have been doing really, really poor. Like, neither of them have won a game yet. Sheffield United, it's mad to see like how poor they are this season compared to how well they did this season or last season. I wasn't sure on this, like, to be honest, as we both know, they both haven't won and they're both looking quite poor. Sheffield United are really struggling for goals. So I think though I've just gone for, I don't know, I've just kind of went for it and said that I'm going to go 2-1 for Sheffield United. I think that they're due a
Go
win,
on.
and I think that like they are a decent team. Like I feel like they have to be better than West Brom. That's what my thought is.
Yeah,
but,
interesting. Yeah, I agree. As soon as you said that, yeah, I kind of half agree. Yeah,
but I don't know. I don't know where the goals are going to come from. I don't know. But
no, I agree with your
find
logic,
out.
and then now I'm agreeing with you now. Yeah, they are a better team, aren't they, than West Brom? So surely, Sean, I saw you. Was that a cheer, Sean, when Matt gave that score?
Yeah, like yeah. Sheffield United have been really, really poor this year, and they're starting to get their injured players back. You know, Moose, who was so important for them last year, he's starting to come back. Look, Jack O'Connell won't play for a long time still. He's been out for a good while, and he's a huge loss to them, not only defensively, but offensively, and the fact that Enda Stevens at times has to play left centre back as opposed to left wing back. I fancy Sheffield United. I just think Chris Wilder he's got to find a way, and I think any manager now, the two of them will know that this is a 6-pointer, whether they like it or not. This is, one of the biggest games of the season after, 9 games. I'm probably hoping more than I think Sheffield United will win, but I think they just have enough quality. It'd be interesting to see what front two they go with, because they starting to have more and more men available, and whether they go with Brewster and McGoldrick or McBurney or Sharp. I think that they have options. Like they might necessarily all be, like Kev said, 15 goals a season strikers, but if they can all pitch in with 3 or 4, it could just be enough. But like they are in a real relegation battle now, and there's no denying that.
Yeah, I can actually see that game being crucial for how this predictions end, because you've guys gone completely the opposite way. We'll go to you, Matt, for this one. Saints against Manchester United. Saints are kind of my second team this season. I thought if they could sneak a 1-0 win against Wolves, it would have been huge, but they're still in good shape at the top of the table. And a United fan gave me there. He's like, if United win their game in hand, they're only 4 points off top, which I find absolutely mental considering they were 15th or 16th last week. But like, how do you see this game going? It's one of those games where, again, it can literally go all 3 results.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I'm just thinking that United won last week, and then they won again in the Champions League, so that means they'll have to probably lose now at
One
the
in every
weekend.
3, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but at the same time, their away form has been really good over the past few months or even year. I think this season they've only played 3 away games, they've won them all. But as you said, Southampton are a really good side, and I know Ings is injured, as we mentioned, but like Shea Adams is looking good. Walcott, I think, is really looking good. Like, he should have had 2 against Wolves. He missed the 1-on-1, but I think that Southampton are a really good side. United will find it tough. They were fortunate last week, as Kev mentioned, against West Brom. West Brom VAR did them in with the penalty, and then as we all know, United get another penalty to win it. But I've gone 2-1 Southampton here.
Yeah, and actually, Matt, just on that, I know you've Walcott in draft. I've kind of replied to your transaction. If you want to check that straight after, I'm not even joking. I'm just including Walcott in a double deal. But we'll take that offline. Kev, how do you see this going, being a United fan?
Yeah, Matt took the words right out of my mouth when he was saying that United are due a loss at this point, because off the back of 2 wins, United had a 5-0 win against Leipzig and then a 1-0 loss against Arsenal on the weekend, and out of form Arsenal team as well. So to be honest, I want to say United's 3-1 or something like that. But Southampton have goals in them, as we've seen. Danny Ings, I think the sign of Walcott is a top class sign for a team like Southampton. He's been very good since he came in, despite missing a good few chances. Che Adams has come into his own as well this season, up alongside him. So yeah, I think there's goals in this game as well. I want to say United win, but if I was to not be biased, I'm thinking it's a 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw. So Sean, yourself there, how do you see this game going? Agree with the lads?
Yeah, like Kev said, Theo Walcott on loan was unbelievable business, and you got to wonder what was happening with Everton that it was allowed. Look, I know the clubs get a lot of money for loan deals now. It's not like the past, but even still, it does seem a bit bizarre. Look, I liked Manchester United. Look, for all that Istanbul, Başakşehir were woeful. And I mean that sincerely, like they were woeful. United were pretty good and they looked a lot more fluid than they normally do. And they struggle against teams that sit back and sort of defend with a deep block. But I thought that the addition of Van de Beek in that central midfield role, we spoke about like ages ago how we were going to get Van de Beek into that United team, and I think they found that way in as a number 8 because I think he's good enough to play. He's got a lot of energy to play in that position. And look, I'm not sure if it's Van de Beek's game against Southampton. I think maybe you do need 2 more central defensive like minded midfielders there. So whether he plays Matic, which I think he will because he's got the experience, and he plays Fred. But then, like the lad said, Manchester United have goals in them, and you don't know when they're going to click. And Bruno is starting to really click again. Yeah, but I don't know. It's probably one of the toughest ones to call. But I'll give the benefit of the doubt to Ollie.
Yeah, and I just looking at that Sunday, I put it back to the fixtures there for those on YouTube. It's a pretty good, decent Sunday round of fixtures. Kev, we'll go to you for Chelsea versus Spurs. Like you're looking at potentially 2 title challenges here. You know, it might have taken them a while to get going, but you really are, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like Spurs and Chelsea flying it this season, despite a shaky start from both of them. Last week, obviously, as we said earlier, it was a Jose masterclass, and I'm expecting the same thing this week again. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I just think like Harry Kane, in my opinion, has been the best player in the league this season, and I don't think many people can say otherwise. Loads of goals, loads of assists. Son is a class player. Like he's really, really good, I think. And then Højbjerg in the middle. I think, Sean, I said to you, I thought Højbjerg was the worst signing I've ever seen from a Spurs team at the start of the season. And turns out he's one of their best midfielders now. So yeah, I think it is a tough one to call, even though I do think Spurs will come out on top. Frank's been going well recently. Obviously, they had a good win in Champions League and on the weekend there. So I don't know. I don't think there'll be a high scoring game. I think it'll be another Jose sit in and counter attack job. So I'm thinking it's a 1-0 win for Spurs.
Oh wow, 1-0 win for Spurs. Jose's Instagram, I don't know if you promised Regulon. I don't know what kind of meat it was, Matt. You might know, but if Mahrez doesn't get by him, it's like worth €500.
Was it Lamb?
Lamb, and Mahrez tried to dribble past him 4 times and went 0-4. So that's the kind of Jose thing he's doing. It's exactly like the documentary, but I guess in this season of all seasons, it seems to suit. But do you see how do you see this game going? Do you see Jose getting another one up on Frank?
Well, firstly, shout out to Jose's Instagram. There's some great content up there.
Super content.
Yeah, really good. But with this one, they're 2 really good sides. As you said, they both have potential to be title challengers. They're both on really good form. Chelsea defensively looking quite good, and then Spurs, as you said, attacking wise, like Kane, Son, looking class. I think they've lost Alderweireld now though for a few weeks, so that's I think a big loss because he was kind of forming a partnership with Dyer back there. They have Rodon coming in maybe, or I don't know, Davinson Sanchez thinks out of favour, but we'll see what happens there. I just think that this is a game that both managers won't want to lose. I think like Jose, I think is really not going to want to lose this. Like I think he's ahead of Chelsea at the moment by 2 points, so if he draws, like he's still going to be ahead, and I'm sure he won't want to lose to Chelsea or Frank. So I think I've gone for a 1-1 draw. I think Chelsea need probably to win more than Spurs, but I think neither will want to lose. And we often build these games up to be really big, kind of 2 top teams, but it might end up being absolute shy game.
Yeah. I completely agree. I actually completely agree with everything you said there, Matt. And even looking at the 2 teams there, best 2 goal difference in the league, 2 points, like you said, on the table there. But yeah, Sean, either of these teams challenging for the league, and do you kind of agree with Matt's assessment on how the game will go?
I think with this year, with the year it is, I think of course the 2 of them can challenge. I think it will depend on their European run. I think Tottenham are lucky in the sense that they have Europa League. They haven't needed to play many of their big players. I know Kane and Son played away in Ludogorets in the Champions League. So, I'm not too sure about either. Look, I think the game comes down to whether Silva and Zuma can mark Harry Kane and Son. Look, like Zuma's been good in the last few weeks. He scored a few goals, but I don't think he's a good enough defender. There's a reason, for example, like I know the French defense is so competitive, but there's a reason he's nowhere near that. He's clumsy at the best of times, and Silva's a little bit old. He's got the experience, but I think Harry Kane will just bully them. And I fancy Tottenham here. It's classic Jose Mourinho on the break. The only worry thing I think is Alderweireld, because he's so important to Tottenham and what they do. But I fancy Harry Kane, another masterclass, a 1-0, a header from a corner or something, and Jose to start talking themselves up in the press afterwards.
Yeah, it's Sean and Kev, massive closet Jose fans. So you didn't hear anything off you the last 3 or 4 years, and all of a sudden coming out of the woodwork here. Sean, I'm going to mix it up here. I'm actually going to come to you for Arsenal Wolves, and I'm going to ask you a question here that I kind of half asked you last night. But has the Arteta bubble burst a bit in the sense that obviously Arsenal fans going to stick with him, but it could take a lot longer than maybe a lot of Arsenal fans got carried away?
Yeah, well, he overachieved, I think, by winning the cup. But you got to give managers time, and when you start not giving managers time, you've got then you start running into problems. And I think the one thing about Arteta is he's shown he can do it. He's shown he's got us winning some big games. You think of the cup semi-final, the cup final, and that's probably something that Emery didn't do. Like at times we were good in big games because we were a bit more resilient under Emery, but we just didn't churn out a performance. And I think that's one thing with Arteta. Look, it is going to take time. But these are the games we are struggling at the moment. Wolves are just going to sit in and hitch on the break. I mean, they've had a good record against us. We beat them in in Molineux post lockdown, but I still think at home, sort of the Jamie Vardy goal against Leicester, I think it'll be a similar performance on Wolves where Traore or Jimenez will score. And Jimenez hasn't been that good recently, but he looked sharp in that last 20 minutes. And I was watching that going, this is just written in the stars for him to score a 78-minute winner. So it's not the game that Arsenal have done well, and I think that's a worry for Arteta. But I think, look, I think he is the right man, and I think there was a little sign of something there. He went to 4 at the back, which I liked against Leeds. It was a lot better because we saw the best of Tierney on that left-hand side. And look, even after Pepe's red card, I still think we could have won the game. But I think that's just down to Pepe. But I do think 4 at the back suits us better and can get an extra player up further up the pitch.
Kev, your thoughts on Arsenal, and how do you see Arsenal home to Wolves again? Like Sean says, it's a game a lot of Arsenal fans are dreading.
Yeah, I completely agree with the idea that the Arteta bubble has burst, because he has overachieved, definitely. But I still think he's the right man for the Arsenal job, especially like they have been playing much better football since he came in. Against Wolves, I actually had originally written down here 1-1 draw between the two of them. But then I was kind of thinking, like, Wolves won all against Southampton last week. They've had a few good results, but a few not so good results. So it's I thought this was a really tough one to call. Arsenal obviously 0-0 draw with Leeds, one of the most boring games I've ever seen as well.
And Leeds are the most exciting team in the league. So
and Leeds are the most exciting team, so that just goes to show you. And then obviously they had a good result against United, but then another awful one against Villa. It's a tough one to call, to be honest. But I can't imagine Arsenal will continue these run of results, especially with the quality they have. Like Aubameyang, and Aubameyang has goals in them, like every minute of the game. So I know he hasn't scored much since his contract, but I'd say this is going to be the second coming of Aubameyang in this game. So I'm going for a 2-1 Arsenal win.
Wow. Matt, I was actually going to catch you up a bit with an Aubameyang question. I just come and reminding. I asked the question after Aubameyang signed the contract. Would this be a similar situation Mesut Ozil? I'm pretty sure I remember the YouTube clip of both Keane O'Hannigan, who was on for predictions, and Sean rolling the eyes at me going, you're just looking for a bit of controversy. Have I got half a point here? Because I'll be honest with you, he's been absolutely dreadful since he signed that contract.
Yeah, it's a difficult one now. I think in general, Arsenal have kind of lacked creativity, and I wouldn't just be putting it down solely to Aubameyang. I know he hasn't been playing well, but I think the whole thing, as you said, with Arteta is they've kind of shored them up defensively, which you would have said over the last few years that Arsenal were always quite soft in defence. That's something I always would have just thought of when I thought of Arsenal, and he has changed that. Now he's kind of blunted them up top, I think, in fairness. And I think Aubameyang was up top against Leeds, where he has been playing on the left at times. Yeah, he hasn't been great. He's got his contract, but I still think like he's still a top player. Like he's still a proven goal scorer, and I think like his time will come again. Even as Kev said, I don't think it's going to come this weekend now, but I think no, I wouldn't be scared of the Ozil situation happening again. But maybe they need Ozil, by the way.
Yeah,
With all his
well,
lack of creativity.
yeah, I know you're trying to
That's
get.
for another day, maybe.
What's your score prediction for this one quickly before that Sean come in?
Oh yeah, sorry. I've gone 1-0 Wolves. I think they've been Wolves are a good side. They're solid defensively. Arsenal are struggling for goals, and no, I think they'll as Sean mentioned, it's set up for a goal kind of in the last few on the break. But I also must say I'm devastated for Connor Cody missing his consecutive 121 consecutive games, I think, up until last week. He had coronavirus then.
Oh wow! And he was in the stand. He was in the stands for the Southampton game. What was the crack there?
Yeah, he was able to. He'd like had it for a few days, so he was able to. I don't know. I don't get the thing.
Go on, Sean. Sorry.
He wasn't fit. The Nuno had decided that he hadn't trained enough, and because he'd been unwell, that he wouldn't be able to play. But like Matt said, it was an unbelievable stat, and he's been so important to them. And you think with all the players that Wolves have brought in, all these Portuguese players, and they lost that core, that sort of English core that they had at times with Ryan Bennett, Danny Batth, John Ruddy. He was the one constant, and he still is. And it's a credit to him. Like Matt said, the one thing I would say about Aubameyang is, I mean, even when Aubameyang was scoring the goals, me and you would always have this debate. He never did it in open play in terms of linking up the play. He was never that. He's not that striker. He's a goal scorer. He's someone that sort of relies on getting the ball 10 yards out from goal and scoring. And I think the one thing, if you're like similar to Thierry Henry, like Thierry Henry was at his best where he was almost playing in a 2 with Dennis Bergkamp, so he could drift out. Henry could onto that left wing with Perez and Ashley Cole and sort of take all the attention away and then make those runs inside. And I think that's what Aubameyang is missing. And, you know, I'd like to see him maybe play with Lacazette if we're not going to play Ozil and try and see if, you know, we can. That's why I wasn't like playing 5 to back, because we were one short, I thought, up there. And I think if we can do that and get Aubameyang in that left channel, I think then we can cause teams problems. But like Matt said, I think it's got 1-0 Wolves written all over.
Yeah, and quick word on Mesut Ozil, like, should Arsenal be bringing him back?
Yeah, but look, it's
a ship at sail, isn't it? Like it's not going to happen.
Well, it's not a Mikel Arteta issue. It's an
issue.
It's a board. Ozil made a stance on, I think, what's happening in China with Muslims and
a few other things, and also the redundancies, the lack of a pay cut, and then the redundancies, I think, played a part. But we'll move on outside of Arsenal politics, lads. Sorry for getting you caught up in our politics. We'll move on to Leicester Fulham. Matt, for yourself, you obviously saw the Liverpool Leicester game. They were very disappointed. It seems that Brendan Rodgers, every time it's just about to happen, and it's been a common theme now. A lot of people said this now. It's not just my own take, but I completely agree. It just seems that it comes short in the big games. And maybe certain big games he's good, and then the next big game, when it really, really matters, it just seems he gets it all wrong completely. Yeah,
no, I fully agree with that. I think Leicester and Rodgers himself have always struggled making that next big jump. They get to Leicester have been at a certain level over a couple of years, and yeah, it is those big games like where you could go to Anfield and beat Liverpool with a few injuries and stuff. But no, they never seemed to make it. Like they were really, really poor against Liverpool. Johnny Evans was just trying to score own goals. Like he hit the post after heading one straight in. Like that's hard, you know, when your defender's doing that. But no, they were really poor against Liverpool, but they're playing Fulham, who are one of the worst sides. Well, like defensively, like their defense is terrible. So I think it's a great opportunity for them to bounce back and get a few goals and get a win. Fulham, at the other hand, like they kind of then had a comeback against Everton and they missed that penalty. I don't know what's the story with Fulham and penalties recently, but it's been really poor. I know Cavallero slipped, but so they got unlucky in the end. But I still think I've gone Leicester 3-1. They're still a lot better, and Fulham are poor.
Kev?
Yeah, I'm going for a similar scoreline there. I have down as 3-0 to Leicester. I like you were saying, I just think Brendan Rodgers gets it wrong in the big games every time. I think they set up wrong and everything like that. Obviously I'm not qualified to be saying things like that, but it just seems like he gets around the big games, things like that. Jamie Vardy up top, I think you were saying on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, but he is one of the best strikers the Premier League's ever seen, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
I think he has goals in him this game, 2, maybe even 3. And Fulham as well. Like, I would say the only chance they have to score is penalties, but it isn't even that case anymore. Like,
they can't even take them. Yeah.
They can't take them at all. So, yeah, obviously they had a bit of a comeback last week, but their defense is just so poor. Like, even Scott Parker came out at the start of the season and said, like, listen, I don't have any defenders in my team, basically, any good ones anyway. So, yeah, I don't think that the Fulham will score, and I think it'll be goals galore for Leicester. So I have 3-0 to Leicester.
Kev, obviously not a Fulham fan. Sean, yourself, we actually, Conor Daly listens to the podcast. He's a Fulham fan. He's delighted when Emmett picked Fulham for his predictions there last week, although a couple of us know the reasons why for that. Sean, how do you see this game going, Leicester-Fulham? Do you agree with that Rodgers assessment? Like, I know it was early on his career at Celtic, but I remember the 8-0 against Barcelona where they just tried to outplay Barcelona, which was naive, obviously.
Yeah, look, it has been labelled at him, and I think that's what he's changed. He's tried to be a little bit more pragmatic in those big games because of what happened at Celtic, and we've seen it at times. But I think the way they beat Manchester City is the way they should have set up against Liverpool. Like, they played through Man City. Like, it wasn't the case of lumping it long. I mean, they played unbelievable football. They played through the lines. They got the ball into Mendy. I think it was a Mendy turned De Bruyne to feed through Vardy for the penalty in the first half. I mean, that's the kind of football. It's brave. It's not easy to do, but you've got to do it if you want to win at Liverpool, especially with the quality they have. I just think he got it wrong. Was a little bit too pragmatic, too stuck in its way. They couldn't shift gear, if you like, and it's very hard once you're in a defensive mindset to go into an offensive mindset. It's the reason why Jose Mourinho's sides are so impressive, because they've got that switch in them. I mentioned to Fulham, I think Scott Parker is actually doing a very good job with what he has at its disposal. I think offensively they can score, and I think that's when you look at what Fulham and Sheffield United, what West Brom and Sheffield United are struggling at the moment is goals. And to Scott Parker's credit, I actually think he's doing a decent job, considering, like, it's never easy when you're the promoted side from the playoffs, because especially you've got that sort of feeling that, you know, you didn't get automatic promotion, and Fulham were sixth, if I'm not mistaken, and they really wilted at stages last year. But I actually think he's doing a decent job, and I think he'll be a decent manager. But I think it's a step too far trying to keep them in the league, but I don't think they'll sack him necessarily.
Yeah, I kind of get the Sean Dyche vibe that he's in it for the long haul, hopefully anyway. Yes, we'll move on to West Ham Villa finally, and we'll go to you. Well, yeah, I'm going to ask you both the same question. I'll go to you first, Kev. Firstly, is David Moyes a good manager, in your opinion? Considering the recent results of West Ham, he's been very well. And how do you see West Ham versus Villa go?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that David Moyes is a great manager for a team like West Ham. As you can see, he's kind of instilled this sort of never say die attitude into the team. You know, they're scoring goals last minute, like the game against, I think it was Spurs, wasn't it? Antonio popped up at the end.
Yeah,
was it Spurs? Yeah. That was just that was class, I thought. And they're coming up with goals last minute and things like it. They're just a much better side this year than they were last year. Every year I kind of think, okay, they're going down this year at halfway through, and then they pull it together towards the end. Whereas this year they've actually started somewhat well. As you can see, 8th in the table. They have goals in them as well. Haller scored last weekend. I don't think that will continue now, but it's a bit of a positive for them. As for Villa, obviously have started the season brilliantly. 3-0 against Arsenal. It was just before the international break, and then obviously last weekend they were quite poor against Brighton, which was a bit of a reality check for them. I think Barkley's missing, which is going to be a massive loss for them with the way he started this year. I think he's out for 2 weeks or something like that. And I think Aston Villa will be looking for a response, but I think West Ham this season are a much better side. So I see a really good game going ahead with a 3-2 win for West Ham.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you can see where you come from with the goals angle. Matt, into you with the Moyes. Obviously he's a good manager, everyone knows that, but maybe underrated, underappreciated a tad. Like the second spell at West Ham, I was like, Moyes will be the first man out of the job. It seemed working from home ever since he's worked from home, which I guess is we should all be working from home, you know what I mean? So Moyes seemed to click there, and he's just kept it going once he got back.
Yeah, I think when he came back to West Ham, I agree with you. I thought it was a poor appointment, but since he got coronavirus and he's working from home, the results have really gone very good, and he's continued it, to be fair, the last few weeks.
Yeah.
A good win last week against Sheffield United. I think West Ham are a good level for Moyes. I know United, it was a step up probably at the wrong time in terms of United's whole squad, but like that obviously just went so poorly for him. But I think at the end of the day, he's a decent manager. Like, you can't argue with that. He's been in the Premier League for so many years. Now, as for the match on Monday, I think West Ham are obviously playing quite well. Villa I think they've lost 3 of the last 4. They've been a bit dodgy now, and as Kev said, Barkley's injured. But when I think of Villa under the lights on a night game after the Liverpool and Arsenal games, I can't see them losing. So
you can't get that out of your head, can you? Sunday
no,
night,
it's
Monday
scarred
night.
into my memory. So thankfully for West Ham, it's not a Sunday night, but it's a Monday night, so it's only going to probably be 2-0 to Villa. Is what I've gone for.
2-0 Villa, wow. Sean, yeah, I to be honest, I kind of see myself nodding my head on that theory. I just get scared of the Villa on the Sunday night. Still have nightmares over that, to be honest, which I'm sure Matt has double or triple the nightmares considering he was even bigger shot. But yeah, how do you see these two games going? And similar, like, is David Moyes underappreciated, I suppose, from the likes of myself, who loves like the Jurgen Klopps and the big names and you know what I mean, like the.
Yeah, like I like David Moyes. No matter where he's gone, I think bar Manchester United, which was a basket case of a job, I think he's done really well at different clubs. I think the one thing that's impressed me is how much the players have improved under him. You think of Aaron Creswell, who was always a consistent Premier League player since he moved from Ipswich, but he seems to have just changed his whole game now, playing as a left-sided centre back in a 3. And Jared Bowen, who everyone knew in the Championship at Hull, this guy was going to be a Premier League player. Kind of took a little while to adapt to the level, and now he really is a key player for them. And he's probably learning from the likes of Robert Snodgrass on similar players, left-footed players that play off the right. The one thing that has impressed me with David Moyes is he's kind of adapted his game to the modern times, and a lot of teams are playing 5 at the back, and he's gone playing 5 at the back, and he's got a tune out of Masuaku, who a lot of people would say is not a good defender.
And just on that, like, it seems like he had Aaron Cresswell left centre back before Arsenal had Tierney left centre back. Do you know what I mean? It seems like that was going on a while. There's little things like that, I guess. Yeah, underappreciated that.
Yeah, it's those kind of things. Whereas, like, for example, Neil Warnock at Middlesbrough is doing an unbelievable job, and sometimes you don't realise those managers, the qualities, until you see them replicated at different clubs. And I think I think it is underappreciated, and British managers in that sense always are, because they, the likes of Alan Pardew and Tony Pulis, and they all get labelled with the same brush. And a lot of those managers are back in at the moment. Tony Pulis is back in with Sheffield Wednesday, which is a huge coup for them. And I think, Derby are really struggling at the bottom of the Championship, and I was looking at who's going to be the next manager, and all those usual suspects are in a job at the moment. A lot of them are in English football, and I'm sure Derby would like to have one of those managers. So I think for the likes of West Ham, it's really important that they have David Moyes, because he's got the experience to guide them out of trouble. And I think, look, I think they're going to have times this year when they will struggle and they won't win games, but I think they will have enough to survive again.
Yeah, brilliant, lads. Really enjoyed that show, lads. A lot of I think this is going to be a tight predictions, to be honest. Just looking down here. So Palace Newcastle, Matt went for 1-0 Newcastle, Kev 1-1. Brighton Liverpool, both guys went for 3-0 Liverpool win. City Burnley, Matt's gone 1-0, Kev 4-1. Both of you guys went 2-0 for Everton Leeds. West Brom Sheffield United, Matt went 2-1 Sheffield United, Kev went 1-0. I think that's where it's going to be 1, lads. Yeah, that's one or the other there, I think. Saints United, was it 2-1 you had Saints, Kev? Just double checking. I think so. I think it was 2-1.
I'll just double check now. Saints United, I have 2-2.
2-2. Sorry, see, but
yeah.
You had 2-1 Saints. That's it. Sorry. So Matt went 2-1 Saints, Kev 2-2. Chelsea Spurs, Matt went 1-1, Kev went 1-0 Spurs. And then another opposite results. Matt went 1-0 Wolves away to Arsenal. Kev went 2-1 at home. Arsenal win. And then Leicester Fulham, both Leicester wins, 3-1 for Matt, 3-0 for Kev. And then West Ham Villa. Again, another completely opposite one. Matt went 2-0 away, Villa. purely down to Liverpool losing 7-2 under lights, which we've had worse theories on this show. And then Kev 3-2, Kev 3-2 win for West Ham Villa. That's it, lads. It's actually pretty exciting week. I kind of like doing these Premier League predictions on Thursday. It gets you kind of excited, you know exactly where you are. But yeah, all 20 teams covered in under the hour. So listen, lads, appreciate you coming on. May the best man win. Matt's going for 2 in a row. Kev, I think it's only McDara and possibly Keane the first week that I've gone off after the first week. So massive pressure for you not to be in that bracket of those two lads.
I won't be as bad as that lad anyway.
And I could speak for Keane. He's still raging about his results. I know Emmett had to pop him there. But yeah, lads, listen, appreciate you coming on. I enjoyed it. Thanks for having us, or thanks for coming on. And then if you're on the YouTube, bottom right, subscribe to the show and follow us on all social media. And all that's left to say, goodbye from everyone here.
Goodbye.
See you, lads.
See you later.
Yeah. Enjoy the football, lads. Have a great weekend, and thank you very much for listening.